All right, everyone. It's the top of the hour. Welcome, everyone, to this Clubhouse event. Your energy, your health, be responsible with empowering solutions. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, and
Yes,
Lakesh Veritas.
ma'am.
Wonderful. And Lakesh Veritas, honor, respect, and gratitude. I would like to start by raising the vibration in the
Yes,
space that we're
and Lakesh
in.
Veritas. Honor, respect, and
Thank you.
gratitude.
Thank you. So let us now raise our vibration by calling for the highest possible vibration, calling for the truth to come forward into our discussion so that the truth can be seen, heard, and spoken, and we all be in that frequency of truth and have nothing but the truth. Should I call for the divine feminine to bring balance back into our world, showing us the way through honor, respect, and gratitude, and calling for the highest possible vibration. I now ask for everyone to take a sip of water as water holds memory and ask for the water to hydrate our brain and body. Now I'd like for everyone to take a deep breath in and let it all out. Take another deep breath in, bringing in peace, joy, gratitude, and life. And exhale out, releasing all stress and worry, all that does not serve you. And Lakesh Veritas, everyone, I call for the oneness and truth of the information shared by each and every one of us on this call, calling in that frequency of truth so that all can experience all that is truth, as it is our purpose to bring forward the truth so that we all can benefit from the information shared with honor, respect, and gratitude to you all. The greeting on Lakesh signifies unity, where everything is related to one another, where everything and everyone is connected. It is an idea of community where we can share with one another our ideas, goals, and aspirations so that we all, as one, can benefit and thrive. And Lakesh is that declaration in which we are clearing our spaces, the space we're in now, so that we may be able to bring in a truthful, elevated, and enlightened discussion this evening, clearing away those thoughts that we tend to pick up and carry with us from our everyday life experiences. The word Enlication Veritas is a powerful affirmation that assists in bringing clarity and a greater understanding of truth to all who are present and to all who are listening. Our words have power, so let us remember and decide to use our words carefully, using our words carefully, using words of upliftment, encouragement, enlightenment. By doing so, as a collective, it'll help us to transform our spaces into higher frequencies and better experiences for each and every one of us here, as well as those others who we touch. So, En La Kitchen Veritas, everyone, with honor, respect, and gratitude. Before we begin, I'd like for everyone to hold your water in your hands again. I would now ask that for everyone, with our intentions in mind, to send the frequency of En Lakesh to our water. Then take a sip of our water. We are 70% water, and the water holds information and memory, thereby assisting in incorporating this elevated frequency of En Lakesh into our cells and into the subatomic space within our bodies. And by doing this technique, it will allow for the ease and flow of the information we'll be sharing with one another here this evening. And Lakesh and Veritas, everyone, with honor, respect, and gratitude. I want to remind everyone that you can access this recording to this Clubhouse event and recordings from other Clubhouse events on Vimeo and YouTube by searching Enlica Studios. And please remember to subscribe if you have not already done so. You can also find more information and content on enlicastudio2.com so that you can keep up to date with the information and content that is continually being added. All right, everyone, let's get started with our discussion for this evening. So today, there's a lot of confusion when it comes to discerning of what is truth, what is going on for you individually when it comes to all aspects of our lives. we are constantly told that what we should do for our greatest benefit without questioning the information or the source. So we are coaxed to believe everything that is presented to us in the mass media, and then later and expected to exonerate and forgive the deliverer if the advice was poor and caused harm to us. So this leaves many people scared, confused, and very vulnerable, and with the thoughts that, well, we have no other choice but to follow the status quo of what is being told to us. Now, everyone, think for a minute. Have you been told something like a little voice that you can hear in the back of your head? Don't do this or do that. But because it was delivered by the so-called an information that was delivered by the so-called authority, and you tell yourself, well, that small voice inside of you is not correct, or you just dismiss it. Have you ever experienced that? Everyone in some way is going to have to say, well, what if something happens with that small voice? Is that incorrect? Is that real? Or worried that something may go wrong if that decision that you made from listening to that small voice. And then later on to come to find out, because you followed the advice or the direction from someone that was outside of you, that it went wrong and it wasn't really for your best interest, and you're like beating yourself up over the head, saying to yourself, I should have just gone with my first mind. So in this Clubhouse today, I want to share with everyone how you can get answers to your questions by using some techniques that will help to clarify questions that you're having personally. Through practice, you will gain confidence in the answers that you receive by practicing these various tools. I want to first talk about kinesiology, the study of the mechanics of body movement. And for 2,000 years, from the time of Aristotle, of 384 to 322 BC, it was focused on the anatomy and how muscle and joints were involved in various types of movement. So then in 1932, R.W. Lovett, an orthopedic surgeon from Boston, then apparently refined this technique, which it was referred to as muscle testing, used to assess disabilities in patients with polio and nerve damage. And then there were multiple other women and men who further developed this technique, such as Florence and Henry Kendall, who assisted in bringing awareness of this technique to the mainstream. So, mind you, this is a technique that is historical, that's been around before Christ in the BC era, which is a more accurate truth in the origin of this development. Because if you look at some historical data over the internet, they don't really go back that far. You have to do further research and ask for the truth. So over time, many other people have revised and tailored this technique. And I've invited Diane. Anne is here today to share with us some of the techniques that was developed by Of the Sun regarding kinesiology. So Diane, are you there?
Yes, in Lakesh Veritas, with honor, respect, and gratitude.
Thank you. And Lakesh Veritas, with honor, respect, and gratitude. Welcome to Clubhouse.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Yes. So can you share with us some information or insights on kinesiology and how we can utilize this technique?
Yes, the kinesiology, there are many, many, many different ways of using kinesiology. And one of the things that we focus on in Of the Sun with we use this in our quantum light property clearing class also, that Lao Tzu brought forward, is the body pendulum. And the body pendulum is such a great tool because our bodies, they were born complete with all the latest information, all the latest technology. And when we let our bodies do what they're supposed to do, they give us the right answer. They will always give us the truth as long as our mind steps aside.
Right, right. Can I ask you,
Yeah.
Diane? I apologize. Can you speak a little bit closer into the mic? Just or
Okay.
raise the volume a little. Thank you.
Okay. Is that better?
Oh, much better. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes. So we know that our bodies were born complete and they were created in truth. So when we ask a question of our body and we let our minds get out of the way, we get the truth. And it really helps when there's times of confusion, when you have questions, like very simple questions. You can use this body pendulum technique for something as simple as, is it in my best and highest interest today to go to the store, to this store? Is it in my best and highest interest to eat this food? Body, do you want this food? And it may be a good food or, I mean, a quote, good food or bad food. You know, it may be an apple. Maybe you're not supposed to have an apple today. There's so many ways to use this tool, but once you get used to it, you know that you are getting the truth. And after quite a long time of practicing and listening, a lot of times it just comes natural. You'll have a question pop in your head, and all of a sudden your body goes, oh, yes or no. And it's kind of fascinating. But one thing to remember when we are doing this process is that we always have to be grounded. And that takes away that information from the the conscious mind, you know, our filters, our programming, our beliefs. Once we are grounded in the ground, grounded to the earth, then we know that we're going to get the truth.
Yes,
Because
yes.
yes, speaking when
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, and you know, what I like about this technique is that it's tailored to you specifically. It's not a cookie cutter technique that would be applied to everyone and everyone should respond a certain way. And if they don't, then they're considered deviant and abnormal or some issue with that. So that's the beauty of utilizing this technique. It's specific for the individual.
Exactly. Exactly, because each person will get different information based on them. You know, eating an apple today may be good for me, but it might not be good for you. So you're going to get the different information, but that's correct to you.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, that's great. I know I was having a discussion just to kind of step back. I was talking to Vars, you know, about the history regarding kinesiology, and I mean, you know, if you just do a quick search on the internet, again, you find these doctors and you know more recent um, individuals who are crediting the discovery and the development of kinesiology. But when I was talking to Devars, he had a different insight with regards to its origin. And would you mind sharing that? Are you there, Tavares?
Yeah, still in Catching Veritas. Honor,
And
respect, and gratitude.
respect and gratitude.
So, before I kind of go into the origin, it's kind of starting from where we are now within of the sun.
Mm,
Diane made reference to it early on, speaking of this is taught in the quantum light property clearing classes,
yes.
and this is like a bridge, so to say, to connect to what I understand to be um, an idea that was pioneered by the sun, where we take the bodies and the intelligence of the body and its capacity to interface with consciousness through like binary yes or no, strong response, weak response, and replace that response or communication with that of a broader intelligence, so to say, than what's available to the body. Which, with all due respect to the intelligence of the body, right? 'Cause our bodies are one of the. It is the best piece of technology. But if you consider,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, like computers and networks are really like a carbon copy of the way how the universe works, and
Yeah.
you know, the body is somewhat of like maybe like a laptop or a computer that connects to a server. and
Mm-hmm.
which allows you to tap into information in the field. But there's other servers, which servers are basically like computer programs where you can manage information and you can access greater networks of information. And that's essentially like what we're doing within the property clearing classes, where you're connecting to master teachers, the archangel realms, other beings who have positioned themselves to be of assistance with not only clearing properties, but to operate as a guidance, interfacing through the intelligence of the body through a yes and no format. So I wanted to touch on that briefly, and I'd like to shift gears into the like historical context. You know, if, plain and simple, it's kind of like what I was saying about how this is the best piece of technology that's been provided to souls to traverse the 3D plane. And within this body, this technology, or this consciousness that we're in partnership or union with, it has the ability, or it has this algorithm to interpret, calibrate, discern, to identify, to align, and integrate with frequency. So, you know, the terms of kinesiology, that's man just finally catching up to the
Yeah. Yeah.
divine design of who and what we are, which, you know, when I was making notes on this, I was thinking about the movie Avatar, which many of us have probably seen, with the blue people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they have their consciousness into these bodies, and but think of the body as this, it's, we don't own it, it's a rental, and then it has a intelligence of its own that can interpret vibration. It can operate basically like a GPS, an
Mm-hmm.
antenna. It translates, it integrates, it reverberates, and we interface with frequency. So, you know, again, my understanding is this is who we are, you know, and what we are terming kinesiology is I would say, like the current update, or man catching up based upon the concepts of accepted science
Mm-hmm.
of who and what we are and what's capable, and that's not even fully accepted, but it is, as many of you may know, it is used in chiropractors offices, so you can get a degree in kinesiology, you know.
Right.
However,
Right.
this is ancient. This is how the ancient ancestors designed us, from
Correct.
my understanding.
Right. Correct. It's so true. That's so true. You know, and that kind of lends ourselves when you're going into tapping into our ancestors and so forth. Another tool, you know, we're talking about what are things that we can do in order to answer questions for ourselves. And another tool that we can utilize is, you know, our intuition, you know, through communication, tapping into the intelligence of the consciousness into something, and which several of us here on Clubhouse have the ability to do. You know, several of us, including myself, are considered what we call quote unquote communicators. So, what does that mean? You know, in the Cambridge Dictionary, a communicator is someone who's able to talk or express their ideas and emotions in a way that other people can understand. So, you know, this past weekend, I saw this movie, 3,000 Years of Longing, which is a story about a genie and his journey through 3,000 years. And it was through multiple lifetimes, which would be equivalent to multiple lifetimes in people. But without giving away the plot of the movie, near the beginning, this genie, who was played by Idris Elba, was able to assimilate and translate his story from four different eras of time, translating it to the person who he was communicating at the time, who freed him from being trapped in this bottle, so that that person could understand the information he was relaying, his life stories that was being shared. So in this instance, he's pretty much referred to as a communicator, also translating and communicating the information that he had gained from the past to the receiver, which is the person to comprehend and understand. You know, as humans, we're receivers and broadcasters. So, you know, I wanted you to touch on that information as a way of answering, our questions by through tapping into the intelligence of things, tapping into the intelligence of, like, for instance, what you're going to be doing in the future is having a class on the Akashic records, which are permanent records. Tavares, or are you there?
Oh, pardon me. I'm here.
Okay.
So, talking about communication, huh? So,
Yeah.
yeah, communication. Well, let's talk about this first. This idea of like channeling and communication, and what are those things?
Oh, yeah.
Because
Channeling is that is something in itself, because it's just a misinterpretation of what it is. It's communication. What we're talking about is different. Do you want to go in and explain the difference? Delve into.
yeah, yes, I feel that it's very important for people to understand that
Yeah.
it's two distinctly different ideas.
Yes,
Uh, well,
absolutely.
and I actually or got a communication earlier regarding the understanding. So I'll do what I can to hash it out. But consider when we are channeling, or a person who is channeling information, they are tuning their dial to not just a frequency, but they are allowing the overtaking of their vessel by
Mm,
another, by an entity or some other form of consciousness.
correct.
And this, what I understand, is essentially possession
Right.
in the most simplest distilled manner. Um, from another note, um, I don't want anyone in my body who
Right.
doesn't belong there,
Right.
So there's that perspective, and I've seen many people channel, and I've seen the highs and the lows of it, and it's rather dicey, because it's, again, this allowing something to come into your being, and that in and of itself has a very like scary feel to it. You know what I mean? Like when people
Yeah.
are speaking about spirituality, so it's kind of like, ooh, what is that? And it has that
Yeah.
vibe to it.
Scared, when they hear channeling or communication, so forth, they have that misunderstanding that they're one and the same, and it can be scary because people will hear thoughts. They'll have thoughts that are negative, and then they're saying, well, where's that? And so that then therefore then they don't want to trust themselves. But people have the ability to discern, is that thought coming from outside?
Yes, so I feel like there's
Thought.
multiple ideas going on here, like the the idea of kinesiology, which is, you're calibrating. I can't quite say it's communicating per se, but it's maybe one can consider it a elementary form of communication, because you are able to ask yes and no. But even through the process with of the sun in our quantum light property clearing class, you could still use the body as an interface with other forms of consciousness to calibrate. But this idea of communication, this is where you are raising and attuning yourself, moving yourself into vibrational resonance with the consciousness of a thing in order to receive the information. It's just like having a conversation where what the guidance shared in the communication earlier is that the distinct difference between the two is that one is rooted in enslavement and one is rooted in freedom.
No,
If you can,
that's
right?
really. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it helps, because a lot of things, like especially within of a sun, and these words seem rather heavy sometimes, but it is what it is when you distill it down. It's like, are you free or are you enslaved? And like, when you allow something to possess you, that's a form of enslavement. Think about people who want to control you in your life and possess you and hold on to you and make you do things and say
Right.
things that you might not be in accord with. That's what's happening when we channel, or what we potentially open ourselves up to with communicating. It's a whole different ball game. We are operating with forms of consciousness that uh, are in respect to our freedom. And what's also incumbent upon the individual who's communicating is to be in respect for the information that's coming forth. You know,
Mhm.
there isn't any control within it, but what does require for accuracy of the information is there's several different factors. One, your cleanliness and clarity, and
Mhm.
your understanding that you can do this, which everyone, I think, I understand it's everyone's birthright. It's just a matter of knowing that you can do it and being
Right.
appropriately trained,
Right.
but then being able to move yourself into that pitch and hold it. You know, so for example, I communicate with the archangel realms. That's no joke. Like sometimes I got to make sure that I go in uh, with some food in my stomach, because if I'm on an empty stomach, my brain starts hurting. You know, the
Yeah.
elevation of the pitch that has to be held in order to pull forth this high level information, you know, it requires more. You know, it may be a little different if you're communicating with plants or some of the insects that are in your neighborhood. That's a whole different idea. But again, we're not allowing the angels aren't moving inside of our being and occupying our vessel. It's, I mean, we do feel the when we move into the vibrational proximity, there is like a response in the body. One example I can give of this is like if anyone who has ever engaged with Lauta, when you are engaged with her, whether it's over the phone or in person, you can feel like the uprightness in your spine, you know, because
Mhm.
it's in her, you know, from being in her presence. It's the same idea with other forms of consciousness, especially those who are of operating higher dimensions and of higher frequencies, you know. So there is a response, but they're not in us, so to say,
Right.
you know. And this is the understanding I wanted to share, so that people know that whatever the sun is doing is different than what's out there. And a lot of what we do is, well, everything that we do is, it's in accordance with the universal laws and principles, and are in respect of the free will, not just of ourselves, but also of the different consciousnesses that we're interfacing with.
Now, let's to the comparison with kinesiology. Do you have to have that same level of consciousness? From because how I view this is that with kinesiology, you don't. It's not as in depth as far as tapping into a consciousness or the intelligence of the consciousness as compared to going in when you communicate. It's a little bit of a deeper connection.
Yeah, you know, it's a matter of levels and degrees. Um, Consider, you know, the theme here is being able to discern truth,
Right.
and there's so many different levels of discernment of truth. There's tapping, you know, there's using pendulums. You can which are all forms of divining. So you can use some call for the truth cards, the divination cards, to find
Yeah.
and ascertain truth. Then there's the idea of kinesiology as well. So, you know, there's levels to it. And with the kinesiology, is, from my understanding, you're building a relationship with the intelligence of the biology, and recognizing that it has needs beyond what you think is best for it, you know. So it's, again, this respect to the will and desires of the body. You know, when we think about certain foods that we, especially like us health conscious folk out there, I raise my hand because I know I thought I knew what was best for my body based off of what I was reading on Google and seeing on YouTube. But there were certain foods, and even what was deemed as a healthy alternative, these foods weren't really in alignment with my body. It
Right.
wasn't until I checked and learned the simple function of the body will respond to you through a yes or no, or I don't know, ask that again, or which can translate as weak or strong response, or truth and falsehood. You know, again, we live in this binary, right? So it wasn't until I experienced actually giving acknowledgement to my body, like, body, what is in your best and highest interest versus what I think is in my body's best and highest interest. And then I became profoundly surprised and in awe that it was different from what I thought. And when I took action on it, I could see the benefits. I could see the truth of it through my experience. So it's very simple. It's something that we've even taught children how to do it. Again, is the kinesiology is not necessarily the main focal. I want people to understand that this is a bridge to like I like the analogy I gave earlier about the server. You know, we're connecting to a larger server of information when we work with our spiritual committees in the property clearing portion. However, the body can help us see into like next week, and you know what's in our best and highest interest to have. And you know, the way we teach it here at Of the Sun is work with the body regarding things that are related to the body, like what we're taking in and possibly different environments that we place the body into. And again, this is something that everyone can learn, even children, because this is the human suit is installed with the algorithm, whether we're aware of it or not.
Right, right. So, you know, people, I think, also have that concern that, you know, trusting your thoughts, your body, you know, what if, you know, those negative thoughts that come in and receiving negative messages, which, as we discussed, can be scary. And, you know, what is your solution or recommendation that for people to maintain, you know, to clear and to avoid those negative messages, and to and assist in discerning what is good for them and what is not?
Get your soul clear. Straight up. The reason being is we're encumbered with so much falsehood. You know, I think you said something to me early in the conversation where, like, I think you said something, and please correct me if I mess this up, something along the lines of people are afraid to seek truth from within, you know,
Mhm.
versus the outside source. And I said, yeah,
Yeah.
because we know we lie to ourselves all
Yes,
the
yeah,
time,
I did
and
say
we're
that.
good at it. And that's the truth of the matter. So, you know, going through processes with Of the Sun helps with removing the overlay of the interferences and the programs that again, you know, we came in like this from previous incarnations, so we got a backlog of stuff, and then we also have what came in from ancestry and just the um, straight up the toilet that we live in, you know, society and the lies that we're fed that have adhered. So we have to undo that process, you know, and that the idea of calling for the truth, you know, because when you do these types of things, it doesn't matter whether it's working with a pendulum, EFT, the tapping, kinesiology, you're working with your spiritual committee across the spectrum, you're seeking the truth. And if you're holding on to the lie, like a diametrically opposed idea, yeah, you're going to get mixed information.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, so these processes require the individual to want to have the truth and take action on it, and to not be attached to what that truth may be, because you know whatever we have, whatever preconceived idea that we have in our mind of what we think the outcome should be, you know, what we think is best, which uh, we're connected to an infinite source, but our conscious mind does have some limitations, and much of these limitations have been taken in from just the society and the world that we live in. So we got to undo that process. And
Right.
the soul clearings and working with these practices can help unravel that and begin to anchor in layers of frequencies to where your consciousness not only begins to perceive more of the truth, but like you you know, you are the truth, you become it. So it makes it easier for a person who's working with this to believe not believe, but to know the information that they're getting is accurate.
Right, right.
Does that make sense? Or because I feel like
Yeah,
I'm
that
speaking quite
that
a bit.
that does make sense, but that leads me to, you know, the next thing that Diane does is she does the Divination workshops using the call for truth divination cards, because at least with those cards, that's more of taking a neutral stance for as far as a question is concerned, removing the biases that we may tend to impress upon by trying to listen for our guides, listen to our own guidance or our messages and so forth, if we don't have the full clarity, or we're not clear and elevated enough in order to get the clear messages. You know, I'd like to, you know, move back to Diane, and would you mind sharing with us, you know, what the Divine Nation workshops that you're doing utilizing the divine the Call for Truth divination cards, the companion to the Call for Truth publication that written by Lotus Rasul.
Yes, thank you. Yes, the cards are the companion to the book that Lauta has written, Call for the Truth, which is wonderful. And it's the book is so many things. Each time I read it, I pick up something different. But also the cards are the same way because, as you said, they take everything out. When you're doing the card readings, you get the information, and these cards have so many different layers. I mean, we've all been doing divination through many different ways, but these cards, they give you the information that you need at the time. And when we're speaking the truth, it always strengthens our bodies. It strengthens our immune system. It strengthens all of everything that our body's going through. So we need to do this often to understand the truth of where we are and where we're going. And in the divination workshop, what we do is we do some card, we have a question that is either someone presents or we just bring a general question of what does the universe, what's the truth for today's group that's together that applies to everyone, because as we know, we're all in the same field when we're together, so we all get the same information. And that information may be to different degrees for each person, but we can do a card reading for like the past, present, and future, so we can really dig into these things. And they're on these beautiful holographic cards. There is a quote, a maxim that Laocha has written, and there is a color, and there it relates to the chakras, and it relates to the Platonic solids, and there are just so and a number. There's so many layers. You can sit with one card and just I have sat with it for like a half an hour going through with so much information coming forward. But you can use these cards in so many ways. You can use it just as a general daily question. You can also do it for specific things. What is the truth of my relationship with my son? What is the relationship? What is the truth of this job? Shall I move jobs? Shall I buy this house? Should I buy a new car? I mean, there's so many things that you can use these for, and it sometimes helps with clarity. A lot of times we do know the answer, but sometimes we do need that little extra, little confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
We can use this to confirm what we know. We can gain clarity. We can help others if we do readings for other people, and it helps us move forward. I know it's helped me move forward, going,
Mm-hmm.
oh, yeah, okay, I need to address that.
Right, and
And
they're easy
yeah,
to comprehend. They're not like riddles or anything like that. It's just straightforward information that anybody can relate to, which is the beauty of these cards.
yes, and they help I think give confidence to people that are using the cards because they are so easy to understand and they're so relatable because it is in regular words, so you know that what you're looking at and what you need to look at is is easy to do. Well, maybe not easy, but it's sometimes it is,
Well,
but
yeah, it's easy, but just share with everyone, the workshops that you're doing, because that's, those who may have a little bit of concern as far as interpreting the cards or how to use them and so forth, explain your workshops, because that is of significant benefit for people.
okay, yes, our next workshop is a week from Friday, and it's free. We do it on Zoom, and we actually go through the process of how to actually get a reading from the cards, and then we do go through each card that gets pulled to see and explain each color and each number and what the message has. And we generally can share that with because each person that is in the group will have a different perspective because it will affect them a little bit differently. But a lot of people can say, wow, okay, I see that. And it would affect me this way, or it may affect you a different way in a different situation. You know, it may affect something for the way they're working in their job, or it may affect a personal relationship or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they are definitely coming forth with the truth. And
Mm-hmm.
everything isn't always what it seems. So these cards help bring that forward. Sometimes it's a different perspective when you've looked at something through the cards. And it's like, wow, I didn't look at it in that way. But it really brings different things forward. So I am very grateful for these. I love them, as you can probably tell.
Yes, yes. Thank you for sharing that. Anything more
Yeah.
to add regarding the cards? You know, actually, I'd like to ask, is anybody out there that would like to share their experience utilizing the cards, participating in this workshop? You know, I've done it multiple times, and I find that when a card is drawn for one person, a question is being answered for one individual, it's applicable to everyone that's in the room pulling that card. Everyone can find some information that pertains to them. So that it's that deep. You can go as superficial into the cards or as deep as you want. You know, does anybody have any other information to share with regards to using the cards?
In Lakesh, Veritas. I'd
Veritas.
like to echo the same sentiments that Diane shared about the Call for the Truth divination cards. You can use these for many different things, or in many different ways in terms of seeking the truth as it relates to your personal experience. Um, Very similar to herself, I could sit with a card for a hot minute, just dwelling on how this applies in my life. And as she mentioned, the cards it's really simple. Like, if you know a little bit about the chakras, you're good, but we got you covered because the book has the general information for the maxim, the number as it relates, the color, and the chakra information, and the platonic solid. So that'll get the ball rolling. But if you're like meditating on it or just kind of moving deep into it, you'll see stuff. You'll see how it relates. And one of the things that I've experienced is like being able to like keep the card or the full card spread on my desk for like a week, and
Mm-hmm.
I continue to see the information rippling or express. And this is what's fascinating, like with the oneness, like I see it in my life, and I'll see it in the life of my clients, and
Mm-hmm.
friends and acquaintances. It's like, oh my gosh, the truth of the information as it relates, because everything's interconnected. So I continue to get wowed by these. And one last thing, me, as well as some of the other property clearers, we use this in our quantum light property clearings for our reports,
Mm-hmm.
and to identify the truth that needs to be brought forth for at this time for properties. And it's definitely empowering to provide like a kind of like a point the client in a direction, like, hey, this is what needs to be focused on, and this is the chakra that it's associated with. So you got a whole nother realm of information in which is applicable. And it's again something that it's beyond just that day. The soul will see it for, I'm sure, over a week, because I know I've experienced that. So again, these cards can be used in so many different ways, and you can either skip rock across the surface or you can go deep. Again, still leading to the theme you shared today with being able to discern and tap into truth, which is the goal.
Right. Answer your questions. Be sovereign. Empowering yourself. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And then going back to the communications and communicators, having the ability to communicate as a communicator is actually going a little bit deeper. So from what I'm gathering, utilizing kinesiology and the call for truth divination cards are like the initial steps that will assist one in helping to answer questions for themselves. you know a lot of people are afraid to listen to themselves. We've been taught to listen to someone else outside of ourselves, and these are the first steps that one can use to make that shift and to stand on their own and answer their own questions. Diane, did you have something to say? Comment?
I just wanted to add something you mentioned about, people are afraid to listen to themselves and they want someone else speak. And sometimes they don't even want to listen to someone else to hear the truth either.
Oh yeah, you've showed me the story that you've
I've,
experienced. Yeah.
I've encountered that at a number of places where I was
Can you
doing the
share
call for
the
the
story
truth
with
card.
everyone? Yeah, share the story with what happened with everyone
Yeah,
in the
we
audience.
had we were at a show, a holistic health fair, and I was presenting the Call for the Truth divination card readings, and this woman kept coming up to the table, but she was kind of hesitant, and it was like, oh, can I help you? And can I explain what this is? And I did, and she said, I don't want to know the truth. And I said, well, how do you answer that? And so she walked away. But she kept circling around. She kept stopping by, but she would not ever come and actually do it. And it was fascinating because a few other people did show up and said, some other people came and said, I sat down and goes, I want to know the truth right now.
Right,
So,
right.
but it's interesting. I think because of we've been living in a world of lies.
Yes, yeah. And that's what, like Tavares, what you said earlier, listening to that voice, people are afraid, because they're lying to themselves.
Straight up. Lie she and he tell.
They're just they're lying to themselves. Sometimes they may be even deluded and so forth. So that's why, like you were saying, getting the energetic works, the energetic hygiene of soul clearing, doing the property clearings, clearing that space to bring that clarity and that truth into your space, into where you are, so that you're able to think clearly and make sound decisions that are for your highest and best good.
Yes. May I piggyback on what Diane was sharing about the person's fear of
Yes,
getting the
please.
truth? Because this is actually in tandem with several conversations I had today regarding people's like almost, I want to say this, this dissonance with not just receiving truth, but like a tangential idea, like what that mean. Okay, so going back to the example that she gave, there's a woman who was afraid. She didn't want to know the truth. Why? Because once she's hit with the truth, that means she's going to be held responsible
Yeah,
because
exactly.
she will have awareness, and
Yep.
in that responsibility she will then require, if she doesn't want to continue suffering with the awareness that she has, she would require, the situation will require her to correct herself. And that was the theme of the conversations I've had earlier, where we just don't like being corrected. We think we know, and the reality is we don't. Because if we did, we wouldn't be here in the toilet, and correction, our perception of correction is very flawed and distorted. And it further led me to looking up definitions, and the correction that I'm aware of that I'm calling forth, which is bringing me closer to truth, is to put right, to rectify, to remedy, to improve, to rewrite, to clear up. But what we lean into when we think we're going to be told the truth or we're corrected, we think we're going to be scolded, reprimanded,
Yeah.
rebuked, lectured. So there's this like negative connotation and this limited perspective that straight up is associated with lack of worth, but it's not the truth of what we're really leaning into. So again, I think it's a mixture of several things where people's perception of what it means to have the truth and what they have to give up in order
Yeah.
to adhere to it, and the idea of what correcting means for oneself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that. That I see that there were a couple people that were unmuting themselves. Nahara, did you have something to say?
Yes, I did. Thank you so very much. In Lakesh Veritas with honor, respect, and
I like
gratitude.
respect and gratitude.
I wanted to mention something about the Call for the Truth cards. They are absolutely magnificent, divine, and intelligent. Have shared with some others before that I was pulling cards for a property clearing and was guided to pull a 9 card spread. So there was a lot of information that needed to come forward. So I was shuffling the deck and shuffling, say, okay, is this enough? No. Okay, so I kept shuffling 30 more times. Okay. Oh my goodness, is this enough? No, keep shuffling, keep shuffling. Oh my goodness. So, and that is so pointed to how intelligent the deck is. Every card needed to be in place that needed to come forward. And I was going to keep shuffling until I got the okay, now pull
Right,
the
right.
cards. And when those cards came forward, it was just like, wow, wow. It was the truth is layered on top of the truth on top of the truth. It was just the deck is absolutely magnificent. And I just wanted to share that with everyone. Thank you very much. Invocation Veritas with honor, respect, and
And
gratitude.
I'm Lakeisha Veritas, honor, respect, and gratitude. In the Divination workshops, we go into the card pulls, for individuals to show people how to use them and how to interpret, and we all share our each individual interpretation of the card that was being pulled for that person. So, I do encourage everyone to join the workshop. Tiffany, I saw that you had also unmuted yourself. Did you have something to say?
Yes, I did. In Lakesh Veritas with honor, respect, and gratitude. Uh, it had to do with the level of intelligence of the card. There are so many things that I feel like I could touch on, but something that my daughter and I, who's only 4.5 years old, we have used the cards to do is just to hold them and not even ask a question, but once we tap them and clear them, just hold them and ask, call for the truth and ask the truth to come forward and pull a card, and she'll pull a card for the purpose of the color that we need to see, that we need to focus on in terms of learning about that chakra color, in terms of what color candle to light in the moment. And it's always interesting because she'll pull a red card, for instance, and then we'll light the red candle, and why we needed to light that hadn't come forward yet. And then 30 seconds later, she's frustrated, and I'm like, oh yes, we needed to clear the frustration. Thank you, cards, for sharing that with me. So we actually had everything in place before this came, and then everything settles into where it needs to settle in very quickly after that. But it's just the level of intelligence is at such a deep level that even just not even asking a question, just calling for the truth, and then having a 4-year-old pick a card to help understand the future trajectory of what needs to be cleared or what's about to come forward
Mm-hmm.
in the energy or the emotion. It's fascinating. And so I wanted to bring that forward as a way that sometimes we use them, and sometimes then it also leads us to a number that we need to be talking about, and so it's really, or a word, that we need to talk about. So
Oh, yeah,
it's
definitely.
it's
Diane,
been a really fascinating way to use it as part of homeschooling.
even your daily activities,
Right,
daily, weekly.
right. Like I use them before we go anywhere, of what I need to focus on and clear, and I use them in my property clearings, but just as daily activities, right, in school as
Yeah,
well. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you. Diane, did you have something else to add?
I just wanted to add that when we do use these cards, as Tiffany mentioned, there's other support products to use that can help us through this situation. If we find that we need a red candle, or a blue candle, or whatever color comes up on the card, we have the candles, we have the DNA clearing salts that help us out. We have the the sacred woods to help us with through these things. So we have so many different tools to use afterwards when we get the information if we want some extra support and assistance with if there's things that we're needing to be cleared. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you for, adding that. That's important and that's helpful. That's very helpful. All right. So, does anyone else have any other comments? Because this is actually going to be a continuation there's going to be a continuation next week, where we're going to have more discussion regarding the process of communicating. Um, and we will hear stories from other people like myself and others who are communicators to learn how they were able to enhance their intuitive abilities and how they came to do the same with regards to communication. But I must add that one way to delve more into learning this process is by learning Akasha record reading, and Of the Sun will be holding class sessions starting next month in October, taught by Tavares of the Sun. And you can actually find more information on the class, about the class, on the website of thesun.com. And we will further discuss this topic next week, delving more into that. All right. Any other comments before we part? I'd like to thank Diane for joining and sharing this valuable information on kinesiology and Tavara's input. It's always welcome, and all those who are participated, information on the Call for Truth divination cards, the companion to the Call for Truth publication written by Lota Rasul. I do want to invite everyone also to our whole responsibility meditation sessions that are hosted by Enlica Studios on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. and 8 p.m. for only 30 minutes, tapping into the power of a Ho'oponopono. And we're also having, we recently started these bonus sessions Wednesday at 6 a.m. only for 45 minutes for those die-hard Pono practitioners. And more information can be found on this on the Enlica Studios websites and Enlica Studio YouTube channel. All right. So I'd like to thank everyone again for joining, with special thanks to Diane and all who joined in our discussion. And I look forward to seeing everybody on the next Clubhouse session next week, digging deeper into discussion of communicators and the Akasha. Tools of empowerment to provide answers to your own questions. And remember, knowledge is power, and taking action from this knowledge is true power. With honor, respect, and gratitude, and Lakesh and Veritas.
And
Veritas.
Lakesh and
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 Veritas.
Lakesh and
Lakesh and
Veritas with
Veritas
Honor,
with
honor,
honor,
respect,
respect,
and
and
respect,
gratitude.
gratitude.
Lakesh and
Thank you,
Thank
Veritas
thank
with
you,
you.
honor,
thank
respect, and
you.
gratitude.
Kush Veritas, honor, respect, and gratitude.